Welcome back to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So in today's video, I will be talking to you about this topic called assets. All right. So later I'll go on to all the terms of how or rather what do I deem as assets. So, but I really appreciate you like and subscribe to my channel so that I can reach out to more people. All right. So without further ado, let's move into the topic for today, which is assets. So in my own definitions, all right, there are broadly 4 different kind of assets. I do know that NFT is kind of like a spin-off from crypto, but I will regard them as one based on current popularity that has been ongoing. Okay, so there are 4 different types of assets. Broadly speaking, that which I would like to talk about. Right, today, of course, there are way many others, but I just want to keep it simple. So the first is NFT. Basically, for those who do not know, it's just digital art. All right, that's for NFT. The second is stocks. Can be Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Google, everything, and so on. Okay. The third is crypto. So cryptocurrencies are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin. Yeah, so that's crypto. And the last one is property, which is like can be your house, can be houses that you buy and you rent it out. So these are assets in my own definitions. Okay, so for the benefit of people, I'll just go on to give a little bit of explanation of all these assets and with the best of my knowledge. All right, so if let's say things that I did not say correctly, please do correct me as well, because I'm also learning. So for NFTs, all right, the most simplest form is just digital art, where you buy and you instead of purchasing art pieces, drawings or whatsoever, physically, you purchase it virtually. Yeah, so that's NFT. Of course, it evolves to become, it includes gaming, game characters. It also evolves into something where assets, so other NFTs with for example, some of them I know they do pay dividends. So these are utilities NFTs, and also NFTs also have moved on to be, can be also like a concert ticket or seminar tickets. Instead of having a ticket, physical tickets, it's all being digitized. Okay, so the good thing about having all these things that's being digitized, okay, is that because it works in the blockchain network where every transaction is all being tracked. So basically, it kind of in my view, it's more like it deters fraud. Okay, because it's all tracked in the whole grand scheme of game. Okay, so that's for NFTs. I know of some NFT. I also get involved in some NFTs here and there. I know of some where they have like collaborations. Of course, everyone would know that they collaborate with for example, crypto punk, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it collab, like I think Visa has some involvement in it. Adidas, and I think Adidas also has some involved in NFTs. Of course, the one that I started off playing, it's deals with it's called VV. It deals with it has some collaborations with Disney. So yeah, this is my so-called NFTs engagement. Stocks, which I'm always talking about so far for my whole video. Okay, so basically stocks, right? It's you're owning a business. Okay, so when you own a business, or rather own a piece of business, of course you don't see on the board because unless you have enough shares. But for most of us retail investors, we just own a very, very small fraction of it. But in some sense, you still do own the business. Of course, if you talk about trading, that's a different thing. But if you talk about long-term investing, where you're thinking yourself as like an investor, like a business owner, you kind of own the certain portion of the company that you're buying. So for crypto, all right, the reason why I don't talk about crypto in my channel is because number one, I'm not an expert in it. Number two, I feel that a lot of people have been talking about it, and I believe they are all way better than me. But for crypto, okay, the most common one is Bitcoin, and of course, the second best, based on the market share, it's Ethereum. If anybody who wants to go into crypto starting out, I would highly recommend reading this book called the Bitcoin Standard. Yeah, where it gives you the whole history of how money comes about, and what's the spirit and motivation behind Bitcoin. All right, so just do read it if you want to know more about it. So for crypto, of course, there are a lot of functions that some of the coins gives. In my own personal opinion, I feel that Bitcoin is like a digital gold. It's like a gold standard to our fiat currency, or rather our cash that we have now. Ethereum, I pretty much like Ethereum because of the utilities, because of the capabilities that it can support many other platforms, right? So, and of course, and also you have this thing called the DeFi, which is decentralized finance. It's also working on, most of it are working on Ethereum platform. Okay. And of course, lastly, properties is like houses, can be a condo, a landed, HDB houses, or anything. All right. So basically, these are the four, my opinion, the four biggest assets. So why is today? What's the aim of today's topic I want to talk about? Is that I just want to bring you guys to this concept of the price and the value. Okay, so whenever we invest in any assets itself, all right, we must always know what is the intrinsic value of the assets that we have, and also what is the future intrinsic value that you expect your assets to have. Okay, so the blue color line, all right, shows the intrinsic value, or rather, of the asset, and this intrinsic value is kind of based on based on the future cash flows that they're bringing in. That's how I look at it, and that's why I agree as well. Now, the red one shows the price of it, because sometimes the price can go up, can go down. It fluctuates in some ways. When you look at all these assets, all right, you must understand the intrinsic value that you are having, and after that, look at the price of today, and then to see whether is it worth buying and is it not worth buying. All right. So this is something that's very, very important for us when we purchase any assets. Okay. So going back to this four categories here. Of course, properties, you have the intrinsic value could be, perhaps future amenities around the area. What's the price? If let's say, for example, there's land scarcity in certain countries. Okay, and that as year on year there will always be inflation increases. So yeah, perhaps property would also be the assets of it will rise accordingly. That's how for properties. I'm not a property guru. I do not. This is something that I'm not very well versed with, but this is just how I look at it. For crypto, then you have to ask yourself all the different coins. What's the purpose in it? What's the intrinsic value that these coins give? One way is perhaps you could look at read the white papers first before you buy anything, and also understand who are the founders, what's the aim, what's the purpose of all this bitcoins, and what are other cryptos, and what do they want to achieve out of it. Okay, so this is how I look at it, and which is why I only narrow down to Bitcoin and Ethereum at this moment. I'm still studying on other things, but I am looking at these two. So full disclosure, I have some Bitcoins, I do have some Ethereums, and I do have some DeFi as well. Try to understand here and there. I'll skip stocks for now. Let's talk about NFTs. So NFTs, in my opinion, right, if it's just digital art, then you have to ask yourself, whether or not this art will it take off, in the long run, or is it just for hype? That's something that you have to understand. I do have NFTs as well. It's not that I don't have, and I get in because I look at, I try to understand the project. I try to look at what are the utilities that they comes about, who are the people that's collaborating with it, backing up, and which is why I got myself first involved in VV, which is something that ties in with Disney, Marvel characters. So because something I feel that this is something that will always be there, right? There is this intrinsic branding that's pushing these NFTs out. Likewise, when Visa get involved, they have all these intrinsic brandings that's pushing all these NFTs out. So, and of course, I also know that there are a lot of NFTs that fail. Okay. So when you buy it, don't buy it because of hype. Buy it because you read through them, you understand what is the intrinsic value. And many of times, like, all these intrinsic values are not like in your face. It's not that. You need to understand, you need to read deeper and think about it and think of the future. If you tell me right? NFTs being used for concert tickets, being used to authentic certain purchases. I do see a huge value in this. So this is something that I don't think NFTs will die off. I don't think NFTs will crash. I do feel that everything will always have some corrections. Whenever you go up, it will always come down. But if over the long run, if the NFTs or this have a utility, have a purpose in it, I do see a value in them. And lastly, we talk about stocks. Stocks is basically, investing in a company. So of course, when I invest in a company, I don't care if the company is being hyped or not hyped at this point in time. I only look at the future. If the future is game changing, if the future, right, is going to impact lives, this is where I'm going in, which is why I talk about, clear point neuro, right? Something that I like it, which is why I also talk about Arkit a lot, because Arkit is the next phase of antivirus, not really antivirus, but next phase of security. Okay, where you impact lives. So these are things that I look at. Right, I see what's the intrinsic value by understanding the business. So always remember this thing. Regardless of whatever assets you wish to own or you own, always ask yourself, what is the intrinsic value? It's based on all the future cash flow that comes to it, but always ask yourself, what is the intrinsic value in it? And whether or not whatever price that you're paying, is it too high or is it too low? And don't worry even if you pay it too high, if the intrinsic value in the long run is going to be better, then it's fine. It's fine, right? So that's something that you have to think about it. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video, right? And I see you in the next video. Invest safe.